So it might be over. The Steelers' free agency period might have come to an end at this point. They don't have a ton of salary cap room. As you've stated a couple of times, the Steelers don't usually like to spend more than like $4 or $5 million once they hit that mark, because they like to keep that money around for their draft class and, last minute signings that they need to make over the summer, which leaves us with Juju, Cam Sutton, Zach Banner, and Chris Wormley, and two outside guys after an offseason last year where they signed Eric Ebron and Derek Watt and came in and started 11-0. Now they're losing more than they're getting. Did the Steelers walk away winners in free agency?
No. I'm not sure if there's anybody who would disagree.
No.
They lost a lot of key pieces, and granted, we expected a lot of those guys to kind of depart. I just can't say they're a better football team than the team they were last year. And I know that team started, and they started 11-0, but they crashed and burned to end the year for whatever reason you want to pin it on. They still did. Their Hall of Fame quarterback is 1 year older. I feel like the offensive line wasn't improved at all. The wide receiver room is still intact. Great. Cool. We still don't have a number one running back. Like we said earlier, the Steelers lost 4 starters on the defensive side of the ball. And granted, 3 of those have guys behind them where it's like, okay, well, we can still rock with them. I think the Steven Nelson news was the cherry on top of the not great Sunday that the Steelers have been cultivating this offseason.
Yep, I think that's where we're at. The Steelers have just shot themselves in the foot after already being wounded. They came into free agency and we knew they were going to get worse. We knew everybody was going to get worse in free agency, and that was fine as long as they could replace these guys. But what I expected, and what I think a lot of people expected, is for them to do things like sign outside linebacker depth. Maybe go out, sign an offensive tackle just in case. Maybe grab a center. What they did was nothing. Nothing at all. They didn't even get a backup tight end. They still don't have a backup tight end.
Yeah.
They didn't help themselves in any which way or form, and then made their team worse by getting rid of Vince Williams and Steven Nelson. I don't understand it. I will say this, and I think a lot of people say this all the time. The Steelers always seem to have a plan. I don't know what that plan is anymore. I stuck by them until the Steven Nelson thing, and then I was like, I don't get this at all. And that's where we're at. I don't understand what their plan is moving forward.
Yeah, and the saving grace for all of this is that the Steelers have had some very good drafts throughout the last few years. Last year being very, very good, at least on the front end of it. It's going to have to happen again,
Yeah, but you can't. Okay, so if the Steelers go out and they have 8 draft picks and they need an offensive tackle, a center, a running back, a cornerback, some inside linebacker depth, they still don't have a backup outside linebacker. They don't have a backup tight end. That's 7 picks right there before, and a center, and they don't have a center. There's 8 picks. There's their 8 picks that they need to just go out, and every single one of them have to hit. That's not going to work.
They do have a center. It's not a guy
They do not have a center. They have BJ Finney. He is a guard.
They think they have a center.
They do not. They do not think they have a center.
It doesn't matter where you
are. The Steelers are not sitting around.
The Steelers believe in BJ Finney.
I do not believe that Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert, along with Matt Canada, are just sitting there, drinking their coffee in the morning, just like, man, BJ Finney, that was a win. Like, they're not doing that. That's not what they're thinking. The Steelers they know, even if they're not addressing it yet, even if they didn't go out in free agency and sign a center, nobody in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is sitting around thinking that BJ Finney and JC Hassenauer that was the right move. Those are going to fix the offensive line. No.
I'm just saying, don't be surprised if either of them are starting as the Steelers center on day one.
No, I agree with that. Don't be surprised. But don't be surprised if Justin Lane is the starting cornerback in Pittsburgh next year, and that's just as bad as BJ Finney. That might be worse. than BJ.
I think that is worse.
That's what I'm saying. Like so don't be surprised at any of this. Don't be surprised when Zach Gentry is lining up as the number 2 tight end trying to block people. So that's where we're at. The Steelers have put themselves in that situation. So when it comes to this saving grace, they need to land a great draft. They need to land a perfect draft or they don't win.
And that's never been done. Nobody's ever hit on every single draft pick they've ever had.
Nobody. And that's what they need to do. If the Steelers went in and every single round selected a need, every single one of those needs would need to hit and play significant time. That's the worst part about it. They need 7th round picks to play significant time in 2020 and 2021. Because otherwise, it's not even like last year's draft is going to hurt them. All they have is Antoine Brooks sitting around, Carlos Davis sitting around. That's another thing. We didn't even talk about defensive tackle. They don't even have a nose tackle. That's how long the list is that there are so many needs that this team still has left. And all they did, the fans and everybody, and don't get me wrong, it's super exciting. I love Juju Smith-Schuster, but that made 0 sense whatsoever. And here they are, just shooting themselves in the foot every chance they get. I don't think you bounce back from it. I don't. I think the Steelers got worse.
I don't know why Ben came back.
I don't know. The team looked a lot better before this, though. You have to, like, when Ben was coming back, there was some like, okay, this team is built. It was built just like it was in 2020. Maybe they'll lose a couple of pieces. Nobody saw this. I don't think anybody saw this.
This team's not winning the Super Bowl, man.
They're not.
This team is not going to send out Ben Roethlisberger in the proper way.
No, they're not. And that's just what they've done it to themselves. They had every opportunity. Unfortunately, you'd have to part ways with some difficult situations. But if Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't re-sign with the Steelers and they don't go out and cut guys like, maybe if they do cut guys like Vince Williams and Steven Nelson, and then I don't know. I don't know even how you fix it. I don't know how you fix it.
That's the thing, and that's why I don't really have a problem with the Juju signing. One, because his cap hit is low this year. Wow. But let's be real, when you have a chance to bring back your best receiver on a team-friendly deal like that, you're going to do it. Granted, the Steelers didn't have a lot of cap space to operate with to begin with, but it just like there are so many holes to fill, and they're not going to fill all of them in free agency. They're not going to fill all of them in the draft. And it's just like it's how it was going into it. But like you said, it got bad really quick.
Real quick. So let me ask you this. Let's look at it as a perspective, because Mike Tomlin loves to do this. Oh, it's something all 32 teams are going through. Yeah, we get it. Did the Steelers get worse just for the Steelers, or did they get worse in the NFL? Because every team, to some degree, got a little bit worse. The Ravens lost a lot of key pieces. The Browns, I don't know how they did it, but they somehow got better. Same with the Bengals. But did the Steelers overall, like, did they just drop off? Are they now like a 7-9 team?
I don't want to say they're a 7-9 team. I still think they're capable of making the playoffs. I think the division is gonna kind of be up for grabs next year, man. Between I really expect Joe Burrow to take off in year number 2. I'm hesitant to kind of really believe in that due to the ACL injury he suffered. But from the small amount of play that we've seen from him, the kid looks legit. Like, he is every bit of that number 1 pick that he was selected as. I know the Ravens didn't have a really great offseason. They still haven't signed any receivers, but they're still going to rush for 3,000 yards. It's going to balance out. If you can't stop them running the football, it doesn't matter if they have you or me out there at receiver for Lamar to throw to. Granted, Lamar can't hit them anyway, but it's a whole different
That's a whole different ballgame.
It's the Bengals definitely got better. The Browns definitely got better. The AFC North is almost as wide open as ever now. And that's really are. That's only due to the Steelers suffering so many losses on both sides of the ball.
That's it. If the Steelers improved in any way or just stayed the same, the division is the Steelers. They're the favorites heading into the season. Even I think Cleveland's right now is my favorite. If I'm going to pick a winner for the AFC North in the regular season, it's probably going to be Cleveland. I don't know how much faith I have in Baker Mayfield, but that defense is good. Really, really good.
Yep.
And that's
the defense is good. They finally got a head coach
Yep.
to right the ship there. Their offense seems to be turning in the right direction. It helps whenever you have two great running backs, two all-pro wide receivers, and then a quarterback who seems to be getting better every year. But they finally got a good offensive mind. A good play caller as the head coach. And it sucks because, when Cleveland is coming up, it feels like that Pittsburgh is coming back down to earth. There's no either
middle ground. And that's going to be a problem. I mean, imagine how bad the Steelers' offensive line is going to look against Cleveland. Baltimore lost a couple of pieces, and so did Cincy. But Cleveland's defensive line is going to be disgusting. Their linebackers are disgusting. And now Ben's got to play 3 pretty good safeties because John Johnson, Ronnie Harrison, and Grant Delpit will all be there, all ready to play. So I don't know.
And let's not forget, I know Cincinnati's being really overlooked right now, and for probably good reason. Who's going to block Mike Hilton coming out of the slot, blitzing Ben 10 times a day? Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's where we're at right now. I mean, since he gave the Steelers a problem last season, I get it was in their rut, but they still gave him a problem.
Yep.
And they beat them. Let's be real. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers at one point. That's where we're at. So no, I think that. As of right now, the future is looking gloomy. And Ben Roethlisberger, he's sitting there shaking his head going, I don't know what you guys did to me, but why would you tell me to come back? Why would you tell me to do this if you're just going to get rid of everybody? Just send the ship.